Hey, what is up, everybody? It is Ross Cessna from Spiritual Phoenix Studios, and I'm coming at you live from Girard, Ohio. As you can see, I've gotten the fancy new updated screen overlay here. I'm really kind of excited about it because it looks a lot more professional than how I had done it, and I really feel that it's going to give people a way better opportunity to feel like what the atmosphere of this show is, which is so much more conversational based and interaction based than it is really just me reading cards for people. I really want to have it be super fun and engaging and talk about stuff. Um, but I do think that we need to remember that this also needs to be a give and take type situation, I guess, is the main thing. So, real quick, some key things that I wanted to hit on in my own personal life as to what's going on. Really been focusing on this concept of not trying to fix some of my weaknesses, but focusing more on my strengths, like doubling down on my strengths. And that's kind of a big shift for me because being in recovery and really working on stuff, there's been this whole big thing of what's the word I'm looking for? Feeling like I constantly need to work on stuff. And it's nice to know, hey, what's up, whoever is watching this in Facebook land. I feel like I constantly have to be working on stuff. In the sense of doubling down on my strengths is a big relief, I guess, is the best way to put it, because it allows me to kind of chill out a little bit. And not that I need a complete and total break, but it allows me to find a little bit more peace. Hey, what's up? So if you're watching this on Facebook and you want a card or something, feel free to ask. I have the cards right here. They're waiting to go. But for right now, I'm just kind of chilling and throwing this out to a couple different places while I talk about what's been going on with me. Some of the other things that have been really happening for me in my personal life has been really working on the business. Hey, what's up, whoever else is watching? If you want a card, let me know. Just shoot me a message and we can make it happen for you. And if you don't mind sharing this in another group, I would appreciate that as well. So I'm going to share it one more place, and then I'm going to jump over here. Let me make sure that there's no messages. Still nobody sent a message. Hey, what's up? I know that there's people checking this out. If you want to chat, shoot me a message and we'll get you a card. Cards are on deck for right now. I'm just talking though. And if you want, there's a link in the bio to ask me a question and I can read it on a later show also. Don't feel like you have to ask now. So that takes a little bit of the pressure off. Let's see. Still no questions. Everybody kind of dipped out too. People checked it out for a second. I get it. No worries. Music cut out. Let's get the music back on. Alright. So anyhow, I guess I'm just going to do some general cards while it's just me chilling here, because otherwise it's somewhat boring. So let me close Facebook down. There we go. Alright. And then open this up so I can see the card a little bit better. And if you want a card, just shoot me a message. So anyhow, we got the full moon coming up tomorrow. Full moons are a time of release. General thing being kind of what are you releasing? And I guess this card will be kind of about that. What can we release as a collective? And it's the World Tree. World Tree is the World card in traditional tarot. The World card is always about like this big ending, this big transformation right before the new journey begins. So really it's saying understand that we're at the end. Let go of where you're at now so you can move on. Because in order to take quantum leaps in life and in our journey, we have to be willing to understand that we have to let go of where we're at, not be afraid to leave. And that can be a little bit intimidating at times to understand that we have to shed our skin and move forward. I'm going to draw one from the Mystic Art Medicine as well. And it's fear. Ironically, this has been coming up a lot. Let me move this where it's more on the camera. But fear and the World card, or the World Tree card in this deck, go hand in hand in a sense. because so much of the time we don't move on to the next part of our journey because we're afraid of what it takes. We're afraid of the resources that we have to cultivate to move forward. And we're afraid that what's going to happen. We're afraid of the unknown. And there was a really great quote that I shared on my Facebook page and on my Instagram the other day from Alan Watts. Let me pull it up so I can read it to you, because I think that'll do it a little bit more justice if I do it this way than if I just kind of do it another way. The general quote is, "By replacing fear of the unknown with curiosity, we open ourselves up to the infinite stream of possibilities." So when we transition from the world card, we go to the Fool card, and the Fool card is that infinite stream of possibilities. And that's really what we're being invited into in the new moon tomorrow. It's the first new moon of the new year, or first full moon rather of the new year, and first full moon of this decade. So there's a whole big potential to open yourself up to new stuff. Video's frozen, Corey is saying. Thanks for the heads up, Corey. I don't know why that's happening. It says it's all good on my end. Let me check. Is it still frozen there, Sir Corey? No, it doesn't seem to be. Looks like it cut out, though. Wow. That's somewhat disappointing. Anyhow, Corey, how's it looking on your end? We'll get back to the reading, though. Well, you try to refresh. Yeah, it says it's all good over here. I don't know. Maybe it's not. I'm going to draw a couple more cards, though. I'll get Corey a card if he's hanging out. This is somewhat confusing, too, because I have a pug sleeping on my lap while I'm doing all of this, on top of trying to do the cards and operate this. And this is supposedly streaming to multiple locations at the same time. It's kind of a giant, I don't want to say clusterfuck, because that's not the appropriate word, but it's really learning this new medium. And I guess that really is the best way to put it. Learning a new medium. Okay, cool. So I drew these for Corey, just because he's here chatting. And although, let me switch it back here so he can actually see the cards. So you got Four of Cups. In this deck, it's called Boredom. Traditional tarot, it really is kind of about contemplation and apathy. It's kind of the state of emotional stagnation in a big way. And there's a sense that you're not doing something that you want to be doing. And combined with this card here, Ancient Wisdom, you're not operating on some of the stuff that you know in a big way. You're kind of playing small when you know you can do a lot bigger things than what you're doing. I don't know if that resonates with you, Corey, if you can give me a response and we can kind of make this a little bit more conversational. Where are you kind of stuck right now? Because it says emotionally you're stuck. So he said JC, in case people can't see that. Too real. Yeah, it's interesting how this all works out. So one of the big things is, if you look at this card, if you notice the green, there is this emotional outpouring coming out of the green. Green's relative to the heart chakra. So you're kind of draining your heart right now, but not in a good way. And you really have to figure out what you're doing wrong. And maybe not wrong isn't the right word, but where you're stagnant, dude, because you're pouring your heart out into something that isn't bringing it back. Dude, so here's one of the big things for me. This was one of the biggest shifts. I'm going to switch it back to the face version. So when I went on my whole journey, dude, I traveled around the United States from 2006 till about 2012. And it was this big transition of going back home after doing all of that traveling. And for me, I was really stuck for a period of years until I realized that, like, Being back home is exactly where I needed to be, and I had to integrate that experience in order to move forward. And I have a feeling that you're very much the same way. The next step for you really is, difficult as this may sound or may be, is for you to integrate that whole experience and really face it and process it, dude. And it's not the most pleasant experience overall, because there is some darkness or some nostalgia in the sense that you've always had some of the wisdom that you've cultivated from that experience with you, but without the direct experience happening, you never could have really brought it to life. And I hope that makes sense. While we're waiting for Corey to kind of add more to this conversation, if somebody else would like some cards, just shout out in the chat. I don't have the chat public anymore, because I think that the cleaner screen looks a lot better. I think this looks a lot nicer. So we're just back to Corey right now. Well, it is just Corey and I chilling. Corey, if you want to carry on the conversation, man, go for it. Like, what else is going on? Does that make sense about the integration? Okay, cool, yeah. I think that is the hardest part of all of it, but it's also going to bring you the biggest returns when you really sit down and get acclimated to it. Hey, what's up, other person that jumped in? If you would like to say hello, please do. If you'd like a card, please let me know. Right now, we're just talking to Corey kind of about his cards, which was Four of Cups and Ancient Wisdom. Corey, let me ask you this. What are you getting ready to let go of for the full moon tomorrow? Like, what do you need to shed? Because as you remember, I don't know if you saw the first part because you said the screen had frozen. The cards that came up was the World card for the full moon tomorrow, which the World card is really about kind of taking the next step in your journey. But the Fear card came up, and the Fear is really about preventing you from taking that step. Yeah, it's like you have this huge wisdom you've gained from travel and this knowing that the world is much larger, yet here I am stuck in the same old patterns over and over, is what Corey responded. And here's the thing, dude. That the thought process of thinking you're stuck in the old patterns is actually the problem, because if you have to go somewhere else to have these new opportunities, it's not really the solution, because here's the thing. Wherever you go, there you are. So the real solution is intrinsically in you. It's more easily accessible for you to fall back in those patterns where you're at, but it all comes down to choice, man. And I think that that's, in a big way, kind of where some of the positive thinking community falls short, because at the end of the day, if you don't have that honest conversation and do the shadow work and process, like the fact that I'm screwing me over by my whole belief structure, you can't really move forward with it. What's up, other 4 people checking this out? If you would like a card, please ask a question, or I'll just give you a general card reading for the full moon. But yeah, dude, I mean, the real solution here is to understand that you're not stuck, that where you're at is exactly part of the process, and just get over it and move forward. Because saying that you're stuck is an excuse, really, and saying that, like, you're back in the old patterns, it's an excuse, I guess. You want to shed the fear of being trapped. Do it, man. I mean, here's the thing. We're only as trapped as we choose to be, and there's some comfort for you in being trapped, because sometimes there's comfort in familiar misery and familiar fear, and you got to figure out why you're there. So you have to kind of reverse engineer this and look for the solution, but think of why you're staying stagnant and where you're at. And I say all this with love and compassion because I've been there before, and there's no way to kind of get past that line of thinking without the direct conversation of why are you comfortable staying in that position? Because at some point, the fear of things staying the same should outweigh the fear of change. And the big issue is no matter where you go, you'll always fall back in that pattern. So you kind of have to face it. And the ironic thing for me is facing it at home really kind of was this huge experience. It's part of the hero's journey in a big way. You come back from this travel and from this experience, and then you have these gifts, but then there's still this other challenge that you have to face. And the challenge ultimately is yourself and how to integrate those experiences. It's not like the easiest thing, dude, but it's incredibly rewarding. So I'm going to draw a couple more cards while we're sitting here. And if anybody else wants a card, please do not hesitate to ask, because we're really just hanging out. Okay. So I'm going to turn this right side up just to make it easier to see. But we're going to remember that it's a reversal. So it's the Knight of Cups or Knight of Vessels in this deck. And ironically, this is about kind of navigating through your emotions in a big way. And it's also somebody who would be maybe romantic and charming in a healthy way. But because it's in the reversal, I would say that they have this capability, but they're not acting upon it. So again, this is really about not really living up to the full potential of your character because you don't actually want to navigate through your emotions. And I think that it's time for people to shed that whole attitude. So if there's another person watching this that isn't Corey, or if Corey identifies with this as well, you can take it on. But the main thing is, so much of the finer aspects of your personality are blocked because you're not swimming through the emotions. And here's the thing. Everybody wants to navigate through the pleasant emotions. I shouldn't say everybody. I have a hard time with pleasant emotions personally. Not everybody wants to navigate through the difficult emotions, and navigating through the difficult emotions is really where so much of the solution is. And then the other aspect of this comes up is children. And I never take this card as physical children. It's kind of this alchemical rebirth and seeing the world differently and getting a different perspective on things. But it's all relative to moving through this. It's interesting, too. If you look at these cards, there's almost this kind of birth canal sense thing, and then the birth that comes out after it. This whole process, and we'll go back to Corey because nobody else is jumping in. If somebody wants to jump in and kind of get some cards, and we can talk about your full moon process tomorrow, please feel free to shoot a question. I would really appreciate it, but if not, we'll get back to Corey. So the big thing here is, in order to birth yourself through this whole situation, you have to go through the discomfort that you're feeling, because it's going to create the necessary friction to help you move past these current limitations. The main thing for you, though, is being okay with being uncomfortable as you go through it, because I have a feeling that you like the comfort and sense of peace that's associated with it, although it doesn't really bring you long-term peace. Does that make sense, Corey? That's a lot of information, dude. So let's go back and check this one out and kind of see all the comments. Okay. Something you're working on, living with the pain and moving past it. And that's the thing, dude. It is a whole process, and it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some self-compassion in a big way. The thing is, you just have to stick with it, dude. So I'm not getting all of the questions, apparently, or all of the responses. And that's one of the uncomfortable or confusing things about this. So let me go over here real quick. And then I'm going to do this, drop the volume down. Oh, you're very welcome, dude. And just be patient with yourself, man. But don't let yourself go on your bullshit either. I honestly think that's one of my biggest gripes about a lot of modern spirituality, is the fact that they let people go with so much shit. And it doesn't help anybody. You're welcome, dude. Yeah, I'm grateful to be able to help you out, man. It's interesting to kind of have chatted so early on in Shannon Ramlow. Yeah, go ahead and ask a question. Yeah, but Corey, we started talking very early on in kind of both of our journeys, so it's cool to be able to hold space for you, and I'm grateful that I could give you something that was helpful. And if you ever want to talk on a more personal level, get a hold of me, dude, because I can talk to you on the phone or through Messenger or something. So, yeah, Shannon, you don't know what to ask? We'll just give you a general cards then. And if you're checking this out, what's up, Bella or Belle? So if y'all are checking this out and you're new, like my page and like the video too if you don't mind. But we're gonna give Shannon a random card for the full moon, and then we'll kind of give Belle one as well. So let me pull this back up here. Oops, sorry. Okay, so Shannon, you got the Lovers card and you got the Abundance card. So let's break this down. Lovers can be about romantic relationships and it can be about all of that. I always like to take it to the deeper level, which is really about vice or virtue. This is about following virtue, following what your heart's calling you for on one level. The other level is the unification of the divine masculine and sacred feminine, to where it creates this third element, which is kind of like this result of this alchemical process, which makes the pieces larger than the whole. But you consistently get that by the way that they say it in one of the circles I run in is doing the next right thing. That's how you kind of wed these different things, and it's not the easiest process, but then it allows you to kind of have this healthier connection with yourself. But the big way I would say this is, Shannon, if you're not in a relationship right now, let go of the concept of finding that person and just focus on cultivating the virtue within yourself on a deeper level, and focus on having the alchemical wedding. And honestly, like, this is kind of a cheesy term, date yourself for a little bit, follow your joy, follow your fun, follow your heart, and the right people will come. But the abundance card comes up too. So the white buffalo in Native American culture, if I'm not mistaken, was always viewed as a good omen. So there's a good omen for you that this is going to be a very fruitful time if you let go of this, to do a lot of the self-work that can catapult you to the next level in your personal development. The big thing is being open to it and being ready to receive that transitional phase, and really understanding that you're worthy of that and that you don't need anybody else to complete you. Because there's such this big movement in our culture to kind of find our missing half. I gotta find my soulmate, gotta find my twin flame. And at the end of the day, it's a bunch of empty bullshit, because we complete ourselves and we can never be good for anybody else in a relationship until we complete ourselves, really. The last thing I'll say on this for you, Shannon, and I apologize if this is super heavy. What's up, Nick? How you doing? Is traditionally when the wedding ring was given to people in ancient cultures, it was a symbol of the individual being completed and them giving them completed self to the other individual. And we've really lost sense of that original connection. This is just saying, work on you, the rest will follow, Shannon. So we're going to transition to Bella, and then we're going to get my homie Nick. And if anybody else wants some cards, just ask. Like, we are just hanging out. Nick, what do you think of the new overlay, man? So, Bella, let's see what you got. This is coming up for a lot of people. So we're going to turn these right side up. Well, remember, you have the reverse 10 of cups. So 10 of cups or 10 of vessels in this deck is about happiness and alignment. One of the big ways that I like to take this card is really, even in the reverse, it's good. Like, there isn't a bad 10 of cups for me, in my opinion. The thing, though, is I think what this is asking you to do, because it's a full moon, is it's asking you to let go of what you think your definition of happiness is, and understand that it's always in this moment. So consider this moment to be this water. All of the water is kind of overflowing. This moment is always overflowing. Happiness is always around you. The thing is, you're like the cup, and we'll just say that you have a hole in it, and the hole in the cup is your perception of what happiness should be, or saying, I'll be happy when. This is saying you have to plug that hole up and kind of catch the happiness in the moment. And I don't know if that's a good metaphor or analogy. That's the best that I can do right now, and that's what you're getting. But one of the other things that comes up, and I think that this is incredibly important for all of this, have the courage to follow your heart. And it's kind of similar to what came up for Corey, in the sense that There's something that you want to do that you're not acting on that you need to do in order to move forward and to actually really cultivate happiness in the moment. So many of us are living our lives from the space of fear and from restraint on following our passions because we're afraid of what if we don't make it, what if I don't succeed, what if I don't do this, what if I don't do that. And it comes down to this great story that Jim Carrey told in a motivational speech where he said the greatest lesson that he learned from his father is what if you fail doing, like taking the safe road? Because his father did. That's why Jim Carrey was homeless at an early age. Because his father could have been a great comedian, played the safe card, and ended up still losing his job. So you have to take calculated risks towards following your passion because there is no security in the safe choice either a lot of the times. It's really an illusion. Granted, there's safer choices than others, and you can still use intelligence to make wise decisions. Follow your passion, quit holding back, and there's a lot of wisdom there. And it's saying that this period right now is a great time to let go of that fear and take that risk. And after this video is done, that's kind of been the general theme that came up in the cards so far. Oh, you're very welcome, Shannon. I'm going to get to Nick right now, Emily, and then I'll grab you. And for anybody that's watching this, if you can like it or share it in one of the other groups, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you haven't liked my page already, please do. You the real MVP. So, Nick, let's see what you got. This stuff's funny, Nick, because I know you. So, Nick, you got Two of Cups, which is it's about attraction, as you can see here. It's in the reverse. And this is super funny because I know so much about your dumpster fire relationships. But it's Two of Cups, so it's about attraction, and it's really about finding the right people. Because it's in the reverse, this is saying that this is a good time for you to let go of maybe some of the toxic patterns of what you're attracted to. But part of that, too, is letting go of some of the toxic patterns that you've held within yourself for a long time, too. And I know that the last time we spoke, not the text that we had today, but, dude, my laugh is scary. I can't help it. I'm kind of a creep at times. But I know that, like, the last time that we talked over the phone, you were making some different changes in your life, and it's just saying keep going with it. Then you have the balance card come up. This is just saying make sure that you find equal effort in the connections that you have with other people. The other thing is saying that you have to find more inner harmony, which is something else we've talked about previously. The mermaid type character is, the way that I always say it, is the ability to navigate your emotions with compassion and warmth, but able to have better mastery over them than most. Which, knowing you can be a pretty level-headed guy for the most part. The other thing about it is the owl. The owl is the ability to see through the darkness, to clearly see kind of what's going on, and to navigate through the difficult situations to get the best outcome, which, again, as somebody that knows you well, that's kind of fitting for you. Although you might not necessarily agree with it all the time, you definitely have that kind of scrappy, in the dark vision. Then we go to the sun. Sun is really about kind of energy, enthusiasm, drive. And then you transition to the moon, which is more about passivity and rest, in like this pool or this receiving. So it's finding this, honestly, the best way I can say it for you is finding some fucking inner peace, dude. And that's kind of a rare thing for you. But, Nick, do you have anything to add to that? I'm going to get to Emily real quick while we're waiting for your response. Skinny Uncle Fester. Okay, so Emily wants to know, figure out what project to focus on first. You have so many business projects percolating. What serves the greatest good? Honestly, I'm going to do a very practical approach to this as somebody who's been studying business philosophy and listening to a lot of motivational speakers, and then I'll give you a card and see how it lines up. The one that you want to do the first So there's two approaches you can do. Which one will bring you the highest returns first, which is a good way to look at it, because you having more money, as long as you're not using it selfishly, can help serve the greater good, because you're able to contribute more to other things that could help other people. So there's that approach to it. Or you can also do it in a sense of, what's the way that I want to put it? What's the easiest to complete first? So there's two different ways. What can bring you the most money immediately, or you can do it from what can I complete the first and get it off of my plate. I think that's the biggest thing. But now we'll do the cards and see what comes up. Sometimes I'm not going to give you the easiest answer. Like, my whole point of doing tarot and oracle card stuff really isn't to tell you what to do. It's to get you to think and evaluate your situation differently. And this is more of kind of like art as therapy than it is anything else. And when I do like private readings, I even go further into that. Like, I have people look at the symbolism of the card and we break it down into kind of what that means to them, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Emily, though, back to you, answering this for you. You want to, let's see, figure out what the best project is. So you have Knight of Arrows. Knights are really about messages. Energy of arrows is energy of swords, so it's about thought. And it's saying to pull back, look at things more clearly, look at the bigger picture, and don't be so opinionated or hasty to think that you have to do all the projects. One of the greatest assets that I've ever been able to cultivate over the past couple years is the ability to pull back and consolidate my effort and my energy so I'm not working on multiple things at once and just doing one thing at, well, my hair got so messed up when I wiped it back. But where I'm really focusing on the most important thing. And that's what you're trying to do, but I think it's really asking you to figure out what is most important for you in the immediate near future. And I think that that can be a tricky thing, but I also think that if you look at the green surrounding the card, green's relative to heart, listen to your heart more so on it, and you can't see it clearly in the camera angle, but there's also this blue there. Blue is relative to throat chakra, which is communication. Communication is not just about speaking, it's about listening, and this is asking you to listen to your heart more as to what the solution or what you need to focus on more. And then finally, we transition to your oracle card, which is devotion. The simplest way I can put this is be devoted to the larger picture, but look at what is the most devoted to your largest goal. So although you can have all these different goals surrounding a business thing, there's what's called, Napoleon Hill called the definite chief aim. And what that is your long-term end goal. What helps best serve your long-term end goal? Focus on that first, because everything else is really superfluous. Something else that this is Brian Tracy who talked about this, is the 80-20 rule. I forget the actual name, the Pareto principle or something like that. But essentially it's saying most of what you do doesn't have a lot of value, so you have to figure out what is the most valuable long term. Does all of that make sense, Emily? And whoever else is watching, if you haven't had a card yet, feel free to ask for one. I'll do either full moon cards for you, or I'll just do cards based upon your question. I'm going to be on for a little bit longer. Let's see. Anybody else out there? We'll do it this way. We'll wait another minute to see if anybody else comments. If nobody else comments, you're very welcome, Emily. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you. Anybody else? 40 seconds left. Okay, well, I'm going to hop off of here. People, thank you so much for taking the time to check this out. And I will be back on again tomorrow. Peace.